Yeah, walked up, we were doing something out
They're
there, and we
for the
just
stuff
happened
to
to
come.
see him, and we heckled him.
I call the organizational meeting of January 4th, 2022 to order. Councilperson Marne will do the invocation this evening.
Heavenly Father, we thank Thee for this day. Help us to use good judgment for the business at hand and guide us in wisdom with a continuing sense of truth and of fairness for the community we represent.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, our council people at large will get their oaths of office. Ladies first.
Ms. Dowling, if you please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your full name.
I, Janet A. Dowling,
Solemnly swear
solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
and will obey the laws
and will obey the laws
of the United States
of the United States
and of the state of Ohio,
and of the state of Ohio,
that I will,
and that I will,
in all respects,
in all respects,
observe the provisions
observe the provisions
of the Charter
of the Charter
and ordinances
and ordinances
of the Municipality of Mentor,
of the Municipality of Mentor,
and will faithfully
and will faithfully
discharge the duties
discharge the duties
of the office of Councilperson at Large,
of the office of Councilperson at Large,
term ending January 1st, 2026.
term ending January 1st, 2026.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Just wanted to say a moment, thank the voters for the opportunity to serve for another 4 years. It's the last 2 years that have been a rough 2 years. I want to commend City Manager Filipiak and the entire administration. They've done a great job keeping things together during this, and we have a lot to be proud of, so thank you. Do you want me to send that now? Okay.
Mr. Marne. If you'd please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your full name.
I, Scott Martin,
Solemnly swear
solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution,
and will obey the laws
obey the laws
of the United States
of the United States
and of the state of Ohio,
and of the state of Ohio,
that I will,
that I will,
in all respects,
in all respects,
observe the provisions
observe the provisions
of the Charter
of the Charter
and ordinances
and ordinances
of the Municipality of Mentor,
of the municipalities of Mentor,
and will faithfully
and will faithfully
discharge the duties
discharge the duties
of the office
of the
of
office
Councilperson at Large,
of Councilperson at Large,
term ending January 2nd, 2026.
term ending January 2nd, 2026.
Yes,
Wow,
sir.
that sounds like a long way away.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I would just like to thank everybody and the administration and council especially. We were talking at the end of the last meeting, and Mr. Kirschner and I were talking just how far the city has come in the last so many years, where we didn't have money to do things and where we're trying to make ends meet. We just had our 40th anniversary of our ice rink, which at one point we talked about closing down, which we were afraid if we ever closed it down it would never open up again. And look where it's at today with over 300,000 visitors per year. But I'd like to thank my family and everybody else and really appreciate it. And let's look for another good 4 years until January 2nd, 2026. Thank you.
Mr. Kirschner. Good evening, Mr. Kirschner. If you please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your full name.
I, Ray Kirchner,
Solemnly swear
solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
and will obey the laws
and will obey the laws
of the United States
of the United States
and of the state of Ohio,
and of the state of Ohio,
that I will,
that I will,
in all respects,
in all respects,
observe the provisions
observe the provisions
of the Charter
of the Charter
and ordinances
and ordinances
of the Municipality of Mentor,
of the Municipality of Mentor,
and will faithfully
and will faithfully
discharge the duties
discharge the duties
of the office of Councilman at Large,
of the office of Councilman at Large,
term ending January 3rd,
term
2026.
ending January 3rd, 2026.
Congratulations.
Thank you, Joe. Well, first, I'd be remiss if I didn't thank my wife who came this evening, Nancy, for all her support these past 20 years. My longtime friend and longtime treasurer, George Meyer. And I want to thank Ken and his staff for, as we have mentioned previously, the great job they've done in getting through all these obstacles these past 20 months or so put before them and us. Council, I look forward to working with you again. It's a great city council. We don't always agree, but we always seem to circle back and do what's best for the city. So I want to wish everyone a happy, safe, and Merry New Year. Thank you.
I want to compliment all three candidates on the tough campaigns they ran.
It was brutal.
A lot of pressure.
That is our at-large council people. Julie, please call the roll.
Mr. Marne?
Here.
Mr. Blake?
Here.
Mr. Donovan?
Here.
Mrs. Dowling?
Here.
Mr. Kirchner?
Here.
Mr. Krieger?
Here.
Next, due to the resignation of Councilperson Bruce Landing, council needs to make an appointment to Ward 3 councilperson seat for the unexpired term of December 31st, 2023. Council, do you have any nominations?
Mr. President, I would move that we nominate Mr. Mark Freeman to the position.
Second.
Let's see. Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? Call the roll.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Congratulations, Mr. Freeman. Please come forward to receive your oath.
Good evening, Mr. Freeman. I'm going to ask you to please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your full name.
I, Mark Freeman,
Solemnly swear
solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
and will obey the laws
and will obey the laws
of the United States
of the United States
and of the state of Ohio.
and of the state of Ohio,
That I will,
that I will,
in all respects,
in all respects,
observe the provisions
observe the provisions
of the Charter
of the Charter
and ordinances
and ordinances
of the Municipality of Mentor,
of the Municipality of Mentor,
and will faithfully
and will faithfully
discharge the duties
discharge the duties
of the office of Ward 3 Councilperson,
of the office of Ward 3 Councilperson,
unexpired term
unexpired term
ending 12/31/2023.
ending 12/31/2023.
Congratulations, sir.
Thank you. I want to thank council for the opportunity to continue Bruce Landing's good work, and it's been 12 years since I've been last here, so, and a lot of familiar faces. So I look forward to continuing what you all have maintained and moving forward in what looking from the outside for a long time, is a well-run city. So thank you all. Thank you.
Election of officers is next on the agenda. Are there any nominations for president of council?
Mr. President, I would move forward the name of Matt Donovan for president of council.
Second?
Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? Julie, please call the roll.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman?
Yes.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Congratulations, Matt.
Thank you.
We got you right where we want you now.
You please raise your right hand. I state your full name.
I, Matthew Donovan,
Solemnly swear
solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
and will obey the laws
and will obey the
of
laws
the United States
of the United States
and of the state of Ohio.
and of the state of Ohio.
That I will,
That I will,
in all respects,
in all respects,
observe the provisions
observe the provisions
of the Charter
of the Charter
and ordinances
and ordinances
of the Municipality of Mentor,
of the Municipality of Mentor,
and will faithfully
and will faithfully
discharge the duties
discharge the duties
of the office of President of Council.
of the office of President of Council.
Congratulations, Mr.
Thank you, Joe. I got a big speech over there in the drawer, and I'm not going to use it. I'm just going to say I want to thank this council for the opportunity to be in this position. This is a fantastic council. Like Ray said, we don't always agree, but when we do always come back around and we do what's best for the constituents. I was going to say a lot of things about the last couple of years where I've never seen anything like it, the way Mr. Filipiak and the administration and this council is fighting through this COVID with barriers between us. The barrier's gone, masks are back, masks are not back. It was an incredible feat, Mr. Filipiak, really well managed. The city's doing fantastic. I want to thank my mother and my family for telling me that politics doesn't have to be a dirty word as long as you're doing the right thing. And I just want to say how lucky we are to have Chief Gunch and Chief Searles as our chiefs of this city. Our Rex people, all our department heads are incredible. We're very fortunate to have the people we have. Everybody works together. And I'm not going to ramble on too much, but I'm going to thank my wife for coming tonight. Hi, dear. And I really appreciate it, and I'm looking forward to working hard and really enjoy working with this council. Thank you. Council, I'm sorry.
Mr. President?
Yes, sir.
I'd like to make a motion for Vice President Scott Marn for the position.
Second.
Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? Julie, call the roll.
Mr. Marn?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman?
Yes.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Marn, get up there.
Good evening again, Councilman Martin. I state your full name,
I, Scott Martin,
solemnly swear
solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
and will obey the laws
and obey the laws
of the United States
of the United States
and of the state of Ohio.
and of the state of Ohio.
That I will,
And that I will,
in all respects,
in all respects,
observe the provisions
observe the provisions
of the Charter
of the Charter
and ordinances
and ordinances
of the Municipality of Mentor,
of the municipality of Mentor,
and will faithfully
and will faithfully
discharge the duties
and discharge the duties
of the Office of Vice President of Council.
of the office of Vice President of Council.
Mr. Vice President,
Thank you, sir.
congratulations.
Thank you, appreciate it. Once again, it's an honor or a privilege. My colleague summed it up, and I was sitting up here, and it's amazing. Janet was president, Ray was president, Matt's president, John was president. Sean, he's one of the newer guys, so he'll be president. And Mark was just put back on after 4 years, so he'll be president too. So it goes to show you how we all work together, and like we all said, agree to disagree. But it's all about being part of a community and doing what's best for the community. And what's the best thing that I personally found out about the rest of council, but we all go to different places in Lake County, and people are envious of us. And they want to know how we do the things that we do and how we get the things accomplished and get the things done. And they look at us as role models and leaders. And I always tell them, hey, if it's broke, we're going to go back and fix it. And we're going to make sure that it's right. And that's what it's all about. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks.
Oh, and congratulations to President Donovan. He now has one more wife and 5 more husbands that he has to take care of for the next 2 years. Make it 2.
Congratulations.
We got Julie too.
Congratulations.
She puts up a lot being clerk.
Next, council, you received the minutes of the work session of November 30th, 2021. What is your pleasure?
Move to approve.
Second?
Julie, call the roll.
Mr. Marn?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman?
Abstain.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Council, you also received the minutes of the December 7th, 2021 regular meeting. What is your pleasure?
Move to approve.
Second?
Julie, please call the roll.
Mr. Marn?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman?
Abstain.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Thank you. Public hearings. We have one public hearing this evening. This public hearing is being held pursuant to notice duly published and posted according to law, ordinance number 220-001.
An ordinance amending Section 1127.01B78 and enacting new Section 1165.09 of the codified ordinances of the City of Mentor 2006 as amended, establishing regulations for electronic vehicle charging stations and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Filipiak, any comments?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President, members of council. Council, this is a new section for your zoning code, which the administration has proposed. It recognizes that we've had a number of applications for electric charging stations and that we can expect many more in the time to come here in the near and distant future. We have seen a number of applications, and under the current code, we have to treat these as conditional uses because they would fall under the category of fueling station regardless of the nature of the fuel. So rather than bring these forward as conditional uses in all case and then apply what we think are the necessary and proper conditions related to those requests, we've proposed to put this into a code section. And essentially, I know, Council, you've had a chance to look at this. Essentially, these what is proposed as rules under Section 1165 are those same conditions that the administration has worked out in reviewing these conditional use permit requests over the last year or so, and really refine them, we think, in a manner that can apply to all conditions. Essentially, we want these to be as discreet as possible. That's why in most cases they're required to be placed in the side or rear yards. The Planning Commission did add a provision, which we are fully on board with, which would allow them to be in the front yard area as long as they are at least 200 feet off of the right-of-way, which I think is a good recommendation, because you already see these before we even, again, like so many things that are inevitable, we've seen a few of these pop up in places like some of the big box stores without any consideration for whether or not there's any permits required or any approvals required. So this will allow us to do a better job of moving these forward quickly. We've approved a number of them with these very same conditions, and this will, again, allow for more efficient operation and allow these to be processed in an efficient manner. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Manager.
Mr. President? Just a quick question,
Dowling.
just out of curiosity. How long does it take to charge an all-electric? I have a hybrid, so I don't deal with it, but
Well, it depends on the car type, it depends on the charging type. I think 2 to 3 hours for the fast charge, and the slowest is around 8 hours or so. But again, all of them seem to be moving toward this. I think it's, well, I'm not sure if it's level 2 or 3. I think it's the level 3 is the higher, and that's the faster charger.
quite a while.
But these things are, the technology is advancing quickly, and the fast charge is going to become the norm.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Mr. Blake?
Just one question. When I saw this come forward, and maybe we should be addressing this outside the public hearing, but when I saw this come forward, I looked these up, and I think the fast charge is the direct current. And I thought to myself, man, if I was standing in a puddle and I plugged in my car and it's raining and wet, am I going to be safe doing that on a DC current, which is like really a zapping charge? I mean, maybe we don't have purview over that, but I don't know.
Well, if I can address that, Councilman? Obviously, these would require an electric permit to be issued, so we're inspecting them all on their installation. And one of the provisions that we added, which is paragraph or subparagraph O, which is on the third page of the ordinance, indicates that the EV charging station shall comply with the current National Electric Code and shall be inspected once a year. Again, and the concern for that, and then proof of it, the inspection shall be made available to the city upon request. The concern, we have no concerns that they won't be installed initially properly to protect the public if they're done with the permit, of course. And the concerns over time are that the hoses start to fray, somebody connects it and drives away quickly, and it yanks on the protective sleeve and things like that. So that's in here. I feel comfortable that we
And I
won't
know
see too much of that.
There's no way of preventing I mean, this has to happen.
Any more than we can prevent a dangerous situation
You're
now
also gonna have
inside a
somebody
building.
sitting there for, I mean, with the direct current charge, I think it's at least 35 minutes. They're probably just loading up enough to get home, but, yeah. I know, it's technology, but I think I'm gonna stay with a gas car.
Until you can't anymore.
You're stuck on the freeway. Thank you.
Council, anyone else? Thank you. Is there anyone wishing to speak in favor of this item?
It's too much for the grid.
Is there anyone wishing to speak in opposition of this item? Council is in receipt of all correspondence and emails received pertaining to this matter. This public hearing is adjourned. Tabled legislation, we have none. New legislation. Ordinance number 22-0-001.
An ordinance amending Section 1127.01B78 and enacting new Section 1165.09 of the Codified Ordinances of the City of Mentor 2006 as amended, establishing regulations for electronic vehicle charging stations and declaring an emergency.
Move to suspend.
Second.
Julie, please call the roll.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman?
Yes.
Mr. Kirschner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Move to approve.
Second.
Julie, please call the roll.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman?
Yes.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Ordinance number 22-0-001 has been approved. Ordinance number 22-0-002.
An ordinance accepting and authorizing the city manager to award a bid contract to Benz LLC for the Menor Lagoons Park Marina Bulkhead Replacement Project and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Flippia.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of council, and I'll turn this over to Mr. Swigger in just 1 minute, but I will mention that, we were a little bit pessimistic as to whether or not we would be able to move forward with that, with this next phase of the bulkhead replacement, simply because of the cost of steel, and it is up probably close to 20% or so from last year, but it's still a fair price, not too inconsistent with what we've seen in some past years. So we're still proposing to move forward. Mr. Swigger?
Thank you, Mr. Filipiak. 2 bids were opened Friday, December 17th of this year, or 2021, for the Menor Lagoons Park Marina Bulkhead Replacement Project. The bids range from a low bid of $1,147 per linear foot of construction to a high bid of $1,195 per linear foot of construction. Based on the per foot cost of construction, the low bid could replace up to 436 lineal feet of bulkhead along Dock D in the marina at a total project cost of $500,000. The engineer's estimate of bulkhead replacement for construction cost of $500,000 was $1,000 per linear foot. The low bid was received from Benz LLC of Madison, Ohio, whose bid was found to be in conformance with all contract requirements. It's therefore recommended that the contract be awarded to Benz LLC in the amount of $500,000. The scheduled completion date for this project is April 1st of 2022. And I would mention that Benz LLC performed the first phase of the construction work of this type in the marina. Thank you.
Council, any comments?
Move to suspend.
Second.
Julie, please call the roll.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman?
Yes.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Move to approve.
Second.
Oh, Julie, please call the roll, sorry.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman?
Yes.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Ordinance number 22-0-002 has been approved. Resolution number 22-R-101.
A resolution requesting an advance of funds collected for the benefit of the city of Menor and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Flippia.
Thank you, Mr. President. Again, council, we do this annually. We ask for an advance of our property tax distribution for the first and second half of 2022 as soon as it is readily available to us.
Council?
Move to suspend.
Second.
Julie, please call the roll.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman?
Yes.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Move to approve.
Second.
Julie, please call the roll.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman?
Yes.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Resolution number 22R-101 has been adopted. Resolution number 22R-102.
A resolution accepting and authorizing the city manager to enter into a grant agreement with the State of Ohio Department of Natural Resources related to the purchase and installation of outdoor exercise equipment at Civic Center Park and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Flippia.
Thank you, Council. We reported on this, I think, at one of our last meetings of the year last year. We were fortunate enough to be the benefactor of around 27 ODNR NatureWorks grant, which went untaken, I suppose, by the original awardee. So we applied and were fortunate enough to receive $28,781 for this. And it is also being offset by a very generous $10,000 donation by a resident, both of which will be applied to approximately a $50,000 improvement to Civic Center Park. And this will be in the area between the pickleball courts and the swimming pool. And you've seen by the staff report that this is consists of 4 stations, as is outlined by the staff memo. And we're looking forward to the installation of this. You might remember to the council that we had one of these at Walsh Park many years ago, and it became outdated and unusable at a point in time. So this has been something that's been desired for a while, so we're happy to move forward with it. Require council's approval for the grant.
Council?
Move to suspend.
Second.
Julie, please call the roll.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman?
Yes.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Move to approve.
Second.
Julie, please call the roll.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman?
Yes.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Resolution number 22-R-102 has been adopted. Second readings, there are none. Third readings, there are none. Manager's report. Mr. Flippia.
Thank you, Mr. President, and members of council. The City of Mentor is offering new tree lawn trees for interested residents. Council has approved a very robust budget this year for tree replacements around the city. Of course, there are a few conditions that might prevent us from planting a new tree, but if residents are interested, they can contact the Department of Public Works send in a new tree request form, which is available on the city's website. We want to remind residents that the Lake County Health District has scheduled a vaccine clinic at the Mentor Ice Arena, which we have been conducting here for quite some time now, for all Wednesdays in January from 9 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. Appointments can be made through the Lake County Health District. Walk-ins are limited, but you can still take your chance if you want to do so. And additional information on that can be found on the Lake County Health Department's website. The Mentor Marina revetment extension contractor has installed about 50 lineal feet of the stone. You'll recall that the total project length is 377 feet. Happy to finally see actually some movement on that project after what council knows was a very, very long approval period. So it's nice to see actual stone being laid there. As was mentioned earlier, I think by Mr. Councilman Marne, the Mentor Ice Arena celebrated its 40th birthday on Sunday, January 2nd. Over the past 40 years, the arena received 2 new additions, and each year an estimated 300,000 people have enjoyed the facility. Approximately 700 people attended the ceremony, including most members of council. I think it's appropriate to also mention that almost on the same day, the city took possession of the new Mentor Recreation Center, which is the former Mentor Heisley Racket and Fitness Club. And we hope to be celebrating many occasions in the future of the celebrations for their birthdays as well. We let you know we have had staff in that building even before we took possession. and things have been running smoothly since the beginning. Now that we have full control of the facility, we're going to move forward very quickly on looking at new options for improvements as well as programming, and we expect to have, before too long, a new schedule, a membership schedule for council's consideration on that as well. The Marina has begun accepting dockage deposits for the 2022 season. Deposits are due by February 14th. And finally, Council, I'm happy to announce two new businesses, the Starbucks at 7715 Menor Avenue and the Yellow Orchid at 7327 Center Street. So we thank them for their investment in the community, and we wish them great success moving forward. That's all.
Thank you, Mr. Flipiak. Clerk's correspondence, Julie.
Council's in receipt of the Menor Municipal Court month-end report for November 2021. And council is also in receipt of a Trex transfer form for Condado Tacos 40 LLC at 7720 Menor Avenue from White Castle System, Inc., DBA White Castle. And I'll need a majority of vote of council accepting the Trex and giving me authority to sign and return the Trex form to the applicant so they can begin the transfer process.
Mr. President, I'll move to approve the transfer.
Second.
Julie, please call the roll.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman?
Yes.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Thank you. That is all.
Commission and committee reports, meeting minutes, Board of Building and Zoning Appeals, November 9th, 2021. Municipal Planning Commission, November 10th, 2021. Tree Commission, November 10th, 2021. And the 2021 annual report from the Tree Commission. Old business.
Mr. President,
Mr. Blake.
and I have a question for you. Last summer, we received about 25 pallets of stone from the Sawyer House that used to stand where the specialty grocers, everybody knows who that is, but where the specialty grocer is now going. And I saw those 25 pallets up at Springbrook. And my question is, they're taking up a lot of space. Do we have any idea what we're going to do with them? I thought a great idea was to do the fireplace in the enclosed pavilion that we're going to be moving forward with. But I don't think that's going to fly. So what are we going to do with those? Are we going to figure out a way of commemorating that 1843 house that really was the base of our first big industry, the rose industry here in Menor? Is there any ideas floating around?
There are a few ideas, Councilman Blake. I think we mentioned a couple of times that we thought that they might, because of their size, that they could, in some cases, be perhaps appropriately used for accent pieces or even like small seating areas that might surround perhaps a small area where you might see a performance or something of that sort. We don't have any permanent thoughts on exactly how to use them. We actually haven't given up on the idea at your suggestion that we can perhaps talk to the contractor about integrating some of that stone somehow on the inside, as you had mentioned. And now that we have that contract, well, we're under contract, we can begin those discussions. But we have no permanent plans for those, other than we'd like to see them used at Springbrook Gardens, and that they will be used in some fashion.
I really would like to see something that would be very fitting to, as a sort of like a tribute to what used to be there, and tell this historical story of Sawyer House, rose capital of the world, basically, and now Springbrook. I don't know if sit my butt on that would be appropriate, but I always thought that the fireplace round and maybe a little picture of the house in a frame and a story somehow would just bring the history forward, because we couldn't save the house. We went down that road. We talked about moving it. We talked about saving it. We couldn't, it just couldn't be done. It was in bad shape. But still, I'd like to see that history move into present day. That's all.
Thank you, Mr. Blake. New business? There is none. Council, we have appointments to make to boards and commissions. We have 3 4-year terms on the Board of Building and Zoning Appeals ending December 31st, 2025. Are there any nominations?
Mr. President,
Mr. Blake.
I would like to nominate Lisa Marinelli and Joseph Primiano to the Board of Building and Zoning Appeals.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second?
Julie, please call the roll.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman?
Abstain.
Mr. Kirschner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Lisa Marinelli and Joe Primiano have been reappointed to the Board of Building and Zoning Appeals with terms expiring December 31st, 2025. There is one more appointment for BZA. Do I have any nominations?
Mr. President, I'd like to nominate Christopher Green.
Second.
Julie, call the roll.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman?
Abstain.
Mr. Kirschner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Christopher Green has been appointed to Board of Building and Zoning Appeals with a term expiring December 31st, 2025. There are 4 4-year terms on the Municipal Planning Commission ending 12/31/2025. Do I have any nominations?
Yes, Mr. President, I would move to nominate Brian Cook, Richard Thiedemann, and John Crocker.
Julie, please call the roll.
I need a second.
I'm sorry.
Second.
I need a second. Oh, thank you. Julie?
Mr.
Oh,
Marne?
thank you.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman?
Abstain.
Mr. Kirschner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Brian Cook, John Crocker, and Richard Tiedemann have all been reappointed to the Municipal Planning Commission with terms expiring December 31st, 2025. There is one more appointment needed for the Planning Commission with the same term expiration as the others. Do I have any nominations?
Mr. President, I'd like to move to appoint Riley Small.
Second.
Julie, please call the roll.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman?
Abstain.
Mr. Kirschner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Riley Small has been appointed to the Municipal Planning Commission with a term expiring December 31st, 2025. There are 2 4-year terms ending December 31st, 2025 on the Civil Service Commission. Are there any nominations?
Mr. President,
Mrs. Dowd?
I would like to nominate Daniel Llewellyn and Diane Pauly.
Second.
Julie, please call the roll.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman?
Abstain.
Mr. Kirschner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Dan Llewellyn and Diane Polly have been reappointed to the Civil Service Commission for terms expiring December 31st, 2025. Next, we have 8 3-year terms on the Community Arts Commission ending December 31st, 2024. Are there any nominations?
Mr. President, I
Yes,
move
Mr.
to reappoint Renee Augusta, Jacqueline Solwitzky, Susan Paternell, Jean Riley, Marilyn Rapaski, and Mary Stewart.
Second.
Julie, please call the roll.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman?
Abstain.
Mr. Kirschner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Renee Augusta, Jacqueline Szajewski, Susan Perdangel, Marilyn Rapaski, Jean Riley, and Mary Stewart are all reappointed to the Community Arts Commission with terms expiring December 31st, 2024. There are 2 more appointments needed for the Community Arts Commission with the same expiration date.
Mr. President,
Mr. Krieger.
I move to appoint John Troxwell and Renee Sanso.
Second.
Julie, please call the roll.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman?
Abstain.
Mr. Kirschner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
John Troxel and Renee Sanzo have been appointed to the Community Arts Commission for terms expiring December 31st, 2024. There is one 3-year term ending December 31st, 2024 on the Fair Housing Board. Do I have any nominations?
Mr. President, I would like to nominate Alan Gephardt.
Second.
Julie, please call the roll.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman?
Abstain.
Mr. Kirschner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Alan Gephardt has been appointed to the Fair Housing Board with a term expiring December 31st, 2024. There are two two-year terms on the Income Tax Board of Review ending December 31st, 2023. Are there any nominations?
Mr. President, I would move to appoint Stephen Ammerman and John Ayton.
Second.
Julie, please call the roll.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman?
Abstain.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
John Ayton and Steve Ammerman have been reappointed to the Income Tax Board of Review with terms expiring December 31st, 2023. There is one four-year term on the Tree Commission ending December 31st, 2025.
Mr. President,
Mr. Blake.
I would like to nominate Louise Mills.
Second.
Julie, please call the roll.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman?
Abstain.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Louise Mills has been appointed to the Tree Commission with the term expiring December 31st, 2025. With the appointment of Mark Freeman to council, he will step down from his seat on the Lake Development Authority. So council needs to make a recommendation to the Lake County Commissioners for someone to fill the vacancy. Do I have any nominations?
Mr. President, I would move to recommend Ron Wassam for the position.
Second.
Julie, please call the roll.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman?
Abstain.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
At this point, Julie is going to send a letter on behalf of council to the commissioners advising of our recommendation. Thank you. Is there any other new business to discuss? We have none. Persons before council? We have none.
Mr. President, I'd like to
Mr.
move
Krieger.
that we go into executive session to discuss litigation.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. President,
Yes, sir.
there's actually two
Yeah.
motions we need here. The second motion would be to adjourn into executive session pursuant to Ohio Revised Code, Section 121.22G1, to consider the employment of a public official or employee.
Second.
Julie, please call the roll.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman?
Yes.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Council, do we have a motion to adjourn? Oh, I'm sorry. Hello.
Now you go.
Mr. President, I would move that we go back into regular council session.
Second.
Julie, please call the roll.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman?
Yes.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
You didn't even let me say it.